Welcome to this YouTube channel. In this video we are going to talk about 10 facts about Omar Khayyam. So before starting this video, like this video, and subscribe to this channel for future updates. Omar Khayyam's full name was Ghiyath al-Din Umar Khayyam Neishaburi. A literal translation of the name Khayyam means tent maker, and this may have been the trade of Ibrahim his father. Here are 10 facts about Omar Khayyam. Number 10. Omar Khayyam was a polymath, scientist, philosopher, and poet of the 11th century CE. Whereas his mathematical works and poetry have been the subject of much discussion, his recently edited and published philosophical works have remained a largely neglected area of study. In what follows, we shall review and comment on the salient features of Khayyam's poetry and philosophy, their relationship with one another, and Khayyam's pioneering views on mathematics. Number 9. The political events of the 11th century played a major role in the course of Khayyam's life. The Seljuk Turks were tribes that invaded southwestern Asia in the 11th century, and eventually founded an empire that included Mesopotamia, Syria, Palestine, and most of Iran. The Seljuk occupied the grazing grounds of Khorasan and then, between 1038 and 1040, they conquered all of northeastern Iran. The Seljuk ruler Tokrul Beg proclaimed himself Sultan at Nishapur in 1038, and entered Baghdad in 1055. It was in this difficult unstable military empire, which also had religious problems, as it attempted to establish an orthodox Muslim state that Khayyam grew up. Khayyam studied philosophy at Neishaburi. However, this was not an empire in which those of learning, even those as learned as Khayyam, found life easy, unless they had the support of a ruler at one of the many courts. Even such patronage would not provide too much stability since local politics, and the fortunes of the local military regime decided who at any one time held power. Number 8. Khayyam was an outstanding mathematician and astronomer, and, despite the difficulties which he described in this quote, he did write several works including Problems of Arithmetic, a book on music and one on algebra before he was 25 years old. In 1070 he moved to Samarkand in Uzbekistan, which is one of the oldest cities of Central Asia. There Khayyam was supported by Abu Tahir, a prominent jurist of Samarkand, and this allowed him to write his most famous algebra work, Treatise on Demonstration of Problems of Algebra, from which we gave the quote above. We shall describe the mathematical contents of this work later in this biography. Number 7. Tokrul Beg, the founder of the Seljuk dynasty, had made Esfahan the capital of his domains, and his grandson Malik Shah was the ruler of that city from 1073. An invitation was sent to Khayyam from Malik Shah and from his vizier, Nizam al-Mulk, asking Khayyam to go to Esfahan to set up an observatory there. Other leading astronomers were also brought to the observatory in Esfahan, and for 18 years Khayyam led the scientists and produced work of outstanding quality. It was a period of peace during which the political situation allowed Khayyam the opportunity to devote himself entirely to his scholarly work. Number 6. Khayyam measured the length of the year as 365.24219858156 days. Two comments on this result. Firstly, it shows an incredible confidence to attempt to give the result to this degree of accuracy. We know now that the length of the year is changing in the sixth decimal place over a person's lifetime. Secondly, it is outstandingly accurate. For comparison, the length of the year at the end of the 19th century was 365.242196 days, while today it is 365.242190 days. Number 5. In 1092 political events ended Khayyam's period of peaceful existence. Malik Shah died in November of that year, a month after his vizier Nizam al-Mulk had been murdered on the road from Esfahan to Baghdad by the terrorist movement called the Assassins. Malik Shah's second wife took over as ruler for 2 years, but she had argued with Nizam al-Mulk. Funding to run the observatory ceased and Khayyam's calendar reform was put on hold. Khayyam also came under attack from the Orthodox Muslims who felt that Khayyam's questioning mind did not conform to the faith. Number 4. In commentaries on the difficult postulates of Euclid's book, Khayyam made a contribution to non-Euclidean geometry. In trying to prove the parallels postulate, he accidentally proved properties of figures in non-Euclidean geometries. Khayyam also gave important results on ratios in this book, extending Euclid's work to include the multiplication of ratios. The importance of Khayyam's contribution is that he examined both Euclid's definition of equality of ratios, and the definition of equality of ratios is proposed by earlier Iranian mathematicians, such as Muhammad Mahani, which was based on continued fractions. Kyam proved that the two definitions are equivalent. He also posed the question of whether a ratio can be regarded as a number but leaves the question unanswered. Number 3. Malik Shah's third son Sunja, who was governor of Khorasan, became the overall ruler of the Seljuk Empire in 1118. Sometime after this, Khayyam left Esfahan and traveled to Merv, now Mary, Turkmenistan, which Sunja had made the capital of the Seljuk Empire. Sunja created a great center of Islamic learning in Merv, where Khayyam wrote further works on mathematics. Perhaps even more remarkable is the fact that Khayyam states that the solution of this cubic requires the use of conic sections, and that it cannot be solved by ruler and compass methods, a result which would not be proved for another 750 years. Number 2. In fact, Khayyam gives an interesting historical account in which he claims that the Greeks had left nothing on the theory of cubic equations. Indeed, as Khayyam writes, the contributions by earlier writers such as Muhammad Mahani and Mansa Kazini were to translate geometric problems into Jabraic equations. Another achievement in the algebra text is Khayyam's realization that a cubic equation can have more than one solution. He demonstrated the existence of equations having two solutions, but unfortunately, he does not appear to have found that a cubic can have three solutions. He did hope that arithmetic solutions might be found one day, that someone else who comes after us were in fact Del Ferro, Tartaglia and Ferrari in the 16th century. Also in his algebra book, Khayyam refers to another work of his which is now lost. In the lost work, Khayyam discusses the Pascal triangle, but he was not the first to do so, since Muhammad Karaji discussed the Pascal triangle before this date. In fact, we can be fairly sure that Khayyam used a method of finding nth roots based on the binomial expansion, and therefore on the binomial coefficients. Number 1. Khayyam uses the concept of wine and intoxication throughout his rubaiyat in three distinct ways: the intoxicant wine, the mystical wine, the wine of wisdom. The pedestrian use of wine in the rubaiyat, devoid of any intellectual significance, emphasizes the need to forget our daily suffering. The mystical allusions to wine pertain to a type of intoxication which stands opposed to discursive thought. The esoteric use of wine and drinking, which has a long history in Persian Sufi literature, refers to the state of ecstasy in which one is intoxicated with divine love. Those supporting the Sufi interpretation of rubaiyat rely on this literary genre. While Khayyam was not a Sufi in the traditional sense of the word, he includes the mystical use of wine among his allusions. Khayyam's use of wine in the profound sense in his rubaiyat is a type of Sophia that provides a sage with philosophical wisdom, allowing one to come to terms with the temporality of life and to live in the here and now. Despite being out of favor on all sides, Khayyam remained at the court and tried to regain favor. He wrote a work in which he described former rulers in Iran as men of great honor who had supported public works, science and scholarship. Outside the world of mathematics, Khayyam is best known as a result of Edward Fitzgerald's popular translation, in 1859, of nearly 600 short four-line poems, the Rubaiyat. Khayyam's fame as a poet has caused some to forget his scientific achievements, which were much more substantial. Versions of the forms and verses used in the Rubaiyat existed in Persian literature before Khayyam, and only about 120 of the verses can be attributed to him with certainty. What do you think of our list? Let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and want more videos from us again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go.